Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Boston-Raleigh channel. We're gonna do Napoleon in Italy, Part 4, the rigid Arcole. We've been going through a lot of these, and I do want to correct something on the record. I did say early on, I think it was episode 1 or 2 of this, I did make the comment that Napoleon was technically a Jacobin. That is not 100% true. He didn't have a registration or anything like that with the party. It's just implied that he sort of works with them and is in a sense, but also isn't technically, and his heart really isn't that far left in the French Revolution. His is more about France as a whole. So Napoleon being kind of like a centrist, the biggest centrist ever, should clear that up. Technically, you can make the distinction whether you want to or not, whether or not he is or isn't, and that is up for debate. Apparently, that is up for debate. Technically, not definitively a Jacobin the same way that others are, but etc. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. Anyway, we're gonna do the Bridget Arcole. Let's go.
October 1796. 6 months have passed since General Napoleon Bonaparte took command of the French army of Italy. In that time, he's led a series of brilliant operations against the Austrians and won a string of battles. Now he appears close to final victory.
Dude, he's been really hamming out in northern Italy. The Austrians just like they couldn't deal with it. They couldn't deal with Napoleon. They can't deal with him, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer to does Napoleon win his campaign? Yes. But let's keep going through on the way. You know, it's just like the American Revolutionary War story. It's like, there's kind of some stuff I already know, sort of, in a general sense, but let's go.
He's driven Austrian field forces off the plains of northern Italy, back towards the Alps. While his troops have the great fortress city of Mantua, the key to Italy, under close siege.
That Mantua siege, by the way, is taking so long. We started the siege 2 weeks ago. Let's get rid of this guy. Come on, let's go.
Mantua's oversized Austrian garrison is nearing starvation and riddled with disease.
Yikes.
Napoleon appeals to its commander, Field Marshal von Wurmser, to surrender. The brave should be facing danger, not swamp plague, he jibes.
No, I mean that's man, that's such a big statement too. It doesn't seem that it would be as insane. I think Wurmser should probably take the surrender because again, if people are just getting sick and dying, all for him to eventually lose the siege. I mean, unless he believed that the Austrians were coming any day now, like the rest of them were coming to go and free him. I mean, what do you do? Freed, resupplied? What do you actually do if you're sitting in Mantua under complete siege by Napoleon and people are just sick and they have some supplies but not a ton, and at some point they'll have to give up? Like, this kind of just stop prolonging the inevitable, surrender. It shouldn't be that profound, but it does seem that way because this is just a stubborn old man who has failed a lot and not really accepted defeat here.
But Wurmser is a tough old veteran.
Oh yeah, he is.
He will not yield while any glimmer of hope remains. And he knows that to the north, Austria is gathering fresh troops to march to his aid. True, many are Grentz battalions, a type of Habsburg frontier militia, poorly drilled and short of officers. But they help raise the strength of the Austrian field army to 44,000.
They're not the only Habsburg that are poorly drilled. Yo, that's so stupid. Oh, what does that just like, that materialized in my brain? They're not the only Habsburgs who are poorly drilled.
And they have a new general to lead them. Feldzeugmeister, or Lieutenant General, Józef Alvinczi.
Yeah, this is the guy This is the guy we're talking about. He's the impressive one. He's gonna be storming down. We were talking about that last week a little bit. They gave us a little hint to this guy. We're gonna be seeing if Napoleon can take this one out.
The 61-year-old Hungarian was once military tutor to Emperor Francis himself, and is regarded as diligent, sharp, and brave. He and his staff draw up plans for a fresh offensive to rescue Wurmser and Mantua. Alvinczi and Kostanovic will lead the main column, 26,000 strong, from Friuli to Bassano, then onwards to Mantua. Davidovic's corps, reinforced to 18,000, will retake Trento and push south through the Adige Valley. The two forces will link up at the earliest opportunity.
So that's actually a lot of men. That's a lot of men. Davidovich and Alvinczi both have a lot of men, and they might be able to push past Napoleon. So you'd think.
Meanwhile, Wurmser, who can muster just 12,000 fit men from the Mantua garrison, will launch powerful sorties to pin down as many French units as possible. Napoleon, by contrast, has received very few reinforcements from France.
Of course.
His weary divisions are suffering from shortages and sickness, and will be outnumbered on every front.
Yep.
Alvinczi begins his advance on the 22nd of October. The following day, the heavens open, drenching troops, swelling rivers, and reducing roads to mud. For the time being, Napoleon is content to observe the enemy struggle forward in such conditions, knowing the effort will exhaust his infantry and disrupt supplies. On the 2nd of November, fighting breaks out north of Trento, where Napoleon has ordered Vaubois to attack.
You gotta really take that opportunity, because they know that you know that they're coming, right? You gotta go punch up before they start, falling down. If you can make minor gains and stall the incoming army up top, then the one down below is just gonna be a tired, muddy, old, shoe rag of an army, and then they can take them out. That's what I would think. That's what I would think, and that's plug the top as much as you can, and keep as many people from actually arriving from up north, because the northeastern troops that are coming over the other direction, they are the main force in a sense, but being able to take on the main force with an advantage is enough, I think, for Napoleon.
He wants to keep Davidovich bottled up.
Yeah.
But Vaubois is heavily outnumbered, and his attack fails.
No.
Vaubois begins pulling back to Caliano.
No.
While Massena gives up Bassano and withdraws towards Vicenza. But now Alvinci's advance becomes strung out, slowed by the heavy rain and poor fitness of his recruits. And it is against Napoleon's nature to remain passive for so long. As the Austrians cross the Brenta, he orders Massena to attack General Liptay's division at Fontaniva, while Augereau attacks Hohenzollern at Bassano. The French launched dozens of separate assaults. But for all their poor march discipline, the Austrian recruits stand their ground and fight hard.
These battles could have determined the outcome of the war and, again, of history when it comes to Napoleon. If he had failed, he might not be so highly viewed here. But I mean, this is the path to power. This is the guy who's going to win it all, and well, sort of. And we'll see. We'll see what he's able to do here. The Bob Rossening needs to happen.
With around 3,000 casualties on each side, the Second Battle of Bassano is the bloodiest day's fighting so far in the Italian campaign. And a failure for Napoleon.
No!
Hours later, he receives dire news from Vaubois. During heavy fighting at Caliano, some Croatian troops get behind the French line, triggering panic and a rout. Vaubois loses nearly half his division, killed, wounded, or missing, before he can regroup at Rivoli.
That's not good. I mean, they were already at a man disadvantage, but they've lost nearly 1,000 more men than the, well, casualty doesn't mean death, but that's a lot of men. That's a lot more men.
The French are falling back on all fronts. And unless Napoleon can conjure something remarkable, he seems destined to suffer a major strategic defeat.
Soldiers, I am not satisfied with you. You abandoned yourselves to panic. You were driven from positions where a handful of brave men might have stopped an army. Let it be inscribed on their colors. They are no longer part of the Army of Italy. Oh, Napoleon's proclamation to the 39th and 85th Demi Brigades. 7th of November, 1796.
Napoleon's position is perilous, but his enemy's cautious pursuit affords him some respite. 4
respite.
Whole days pass while Alvinczi and Davidovich coordinate their next moves. It's not a delay Napoleon would have tolerated if the shoe had been on the other foot. When the Austrians finally advance, it's bungled. Hohenzollern's vanguard approaches Verona to investigate reports of a French retreat. This isolated division is too tempting for Napoleon to ignore.
Is this a trap?
He orders Augereau and Massena to attack. They inflict 400 casualties, but Hohenzollern escapes to a ridge near Caldiero. The next day, Napoleon orders renewed attacks. But conditions are atrocious.
Uh-oh.
The French struggle uphill into driving rain and hail, their boots slipping in the mud, under fire from Austrians dug in on the ridgetop. Around noon, Colonel Dupuy's 32nd Demi Brigade finally gets onto the ridge. It looks like the French may be able to lever the Austrians out of their position.
Oh no, they got the reinforcements.
But then the Austrian army begins to arrive in force to support Hohenzollern's hard-pressed division.
Uh-oh.
The French are in danger of being outflanked on both wings.
That's bad. That is so bad. That is so bad.
They take up new defensive positions and hold the line until darkness, when Napoleon cuts his losses and orders a retreat to Verona. It has been an unequivocal French defeat. Napoleon's first in battle.
Yikes. That's, that's not as bad as it could be, but geez, that's still, it's agonizing when you're already, again, you're already down soldiers. You're already down to the Austrians, and they're coming in full force. That's not good. This is scary. This is the scary part.
The following day, he writes furiously to the Directory in Paris. He has no doubt that they are to blame for his defeat, for repeatedly failing to send reinforcements. We may be on the verge of losing Italy. None of the expected help has arrived. The army of Italy, reduced to a handful of men, is worn out. The heroes of Lodi, Millesimo, Castiglione, and Bassano have died for their country or are in the hospitals.
Yeah, that's where it starts to really feel a bit hopeless, is when your country is not, you've made impressive gains. They have made impressive gains under you in that particular conflict. And all of the heroes, they're fighting as hard as they can, but they can't keep doing it. They need fresh troops. They need men. What are you gonna do? Like, this is a really hard. I can't help but smile because I have an inkling. It's Napoleon. This is Napoleon. What's gonna happen?
The men have nothing left but their reputation and their pride.
Correct.
We are abandoned in the depths of Italy. But despite his apparent despair, Napoleon has already devised a plan to strike back.
Yeah!
A breathtakingly bold move that will spawn one of the greatest of Napoleonic legends.
In a few days, we will try one last effort. If fortune smiles upon us, Mantua will be taken, and with it, Italy. Let's go! Let's go!
With the Austrians converging on Verona, Napoleon decides to risk everything on a daring surprise attack.
See, that's usually a bad strategy, but this is Napoleon we're talking about.
Leaving Macquart to cover Verona, he will circle south with the rest of the army, cross the Adige River, and swing north, threatening to cut Alvinci's lines of communication and capture his artillery, baggage, and supplies. Such losses will force Alvinczi to abandon his advance. Marching overnight, Augereau and Massena arrive undetected at Ronco. Augereau's men cross the Adige on a pontoon bridge and begin moving north. But with marshland on all sides, they have to stick to the narrow, raised causeway, just 20 yards wide.
So this is all yucky, wet swamp yuckiness. This is, it reminds me of home a little bit. It reminds me of Virginia Beach. That's a lot of water, that's a lot of marsh, that's a lot of yuck. Like, there are some roads there, but come on. That sucks.
And when they reach Arcole, where they must cross the bridge to continue north, they find it held by 2 Croatian battalions.
Uh-oh.
Horribly exposed on the causeway, and under heavy fire, the French troops take cover behind its reverse slope. Reinforcements are sent up, but they too are pinned down by the weight of fire from the far bank. Colonel Lannes had discharged himself from hospital that morning in order not to miss the battle. He now attempts to lead a charge, but is hit in the leg.
No! That sucks. That sucks. Even if he doesn't die from that, that's terrible.
The fiery Augereau refuses to accept defeat and orders another attack. But his men are exhausted and demoralized, with 3 generals wounded. The attack at Arcole has stalled. When Alvinczi hears gunfire from the south, he assumes the French are making a feint to divert him from his own planned attack on Verona.
That's insane. He thinks it's a feint? I mean, I guess maybe it's not insane, but maybe the idea is that the French aren't actually going to abandon Verona. They're going to send men to go and try and drag me back, but I'm not going to fall for that. I mean, that actually might be just the thing that you would think, pursuant that, like, they know that they're in a good position. So what is the enemy going to do, right? The enemy might not be doing that well, so they're going to try and do something to keep them slowed down, because if they're slowed down enough, then if, you know, France has more men coming in, if they're just trying to hold out and stall out for the army to finish its business up north, just to kind of keep things from getting too out of control too quickly. I mean, that's not actually a terrible thought, but assuming that that's a feint to me seems like, I don't know about that one. I'm not gonna crap on Alvinczi for that, though. I don't think that's actually like a huge strategic blunder. You might be pretty well within your rights to think that that's not actually a major fight. It's just a feint.
But then comes alarming news that the French have crossed the Adige in force and are behind his left flank.
Ooh.
He sends 2 brigades to attack the French bridgehead and diverts Mitrovsky to reinforce Arcole.
So this is starting to get a little bit crazy here.
Massena's division, moving northwest to protect the flank of the advance, runs straight into the Austrians at Bionde. At first, the Austrians have the better of it. But a disastrous friendly fire incident triggers panic, and Massena drives the Austrians back up the causeway.
Let's go!
Napoleon is increasingly concerned by the hold-up at Arcole. If they cannot break through, Alvinczi will have ample time to redeploy and prevent any advance. He now orders General Gier to take 2 regiments, cross the Adige at Albaredo, and lead them up the eastern bank of the Alpone River to hit Arcole from the south.
So this might actually be the interesting strategy here, is that you're going to do a hook around with some of your troops, but you're going to have to hold the other ones. You're going to have to, the pinned down ones, they're going to have to stay pinned down and stay fighting so that the troops at Arcole aren't, like, drawn off from their position. It seems like a good idea, but I feel like that could go horribly wrong.
He himself rides to the bridge to try to get the attack moving.
Oh, man.
He finds hundreds of French troops sheltering behind the causeway, unwilling to face the Austrian fire. General Augereau grabs a standard and begins to advance. This highly romanticized depiction was painted 2 years later.
Wow. That's look at the artist depiction of what is in that man's eyes. Augereau's eyes are just like, it's dire. They know that they need to move. They need to press on. That's insane. And the little drummer boy tugging at the bottom of his coat. That's a really good piece, honestly.
Grenadiers, he cries, come and seek your color.
Yeah.
In reality, none had the courage to follow him.
No.
Then, the commander of the Army of Italy himself draws his saber, picks up a standard, and runs forward. There is withering fire all around. Several men fall wounded. His aide-de-camp, Colonel Muron, is killed. Another aide-de-camp, a Polish officer named Sulkowski, recalls, "The soldiers saw him, and none of them imitated him. I was witness to this extraordinary cowardice, and I cannot conceive it."
Napoleon really wanted them to move, and they wouldn't move. It's so bad.
With the French infantry refusing to follow their officers, the assault on the bridge ends in abject failure. A well-timed Austrian counterattack drives them back down the causeway. In the rout, Napoleon's horse loses its footing. He tumbles into the swamp and has to be hauled out by his aides.
It's no good.
That evening, General Gier launches his attack on Arcole from the south. The defenses are less formidable on this side, and his men fight their way into the village. Arcole, at last, has fallen.
I mean, that's so much. That is so much that they got from that absolute defeat. I mean, again, like I was saying, they just needed to be dug in. They needed to hold their ground, and the southern reinforcements were able to make their way up and take Arcole. It's just that, it feels like they've escaped via the grace of God here, and not because, they actually were truly victorious in a way.
But that night, Gier's men are ordered to pull back. Napoleon is preparing to retreat.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. They're not gonna be able to hold that area very long. It's over. It's over.
If, as he expects, Davidovich has continued his advance down the Adige Valley, Napoleon must withdraw now or face encirclement.
Yep.
His bold maneuver appears to have failed. Then, at 4 a.m., Napoleon receives a report from Rivoli that changes everything.
Yo? What's going on here? Are we doing okay? Are we gonna figure it out? Are we going to win this? Oh, man. I don't know. This is where it all kind of, you know, it's gonna be turning on a dime. Hopefully Napoleon can hold it together. Hopefully we can do all that. I don't know. Will they take it? Will they be good? Find out next time, because we're actually going to end a little early here. We're going to end a little early, just so that we can get we don't go too long with any of these episodes. We're gonna be doing this. We're gonna be doing Italy for the next 3 weeks, and then we're going to pivot to one of the other videos in the timeline of what goes on here. Definitely be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Help us get to 250 by the end of the year, the American 250th anniversary. We should be at 250. I think we can pull that off. Also, definitely understand Bulby over here sometimes misspeaks a little bit clearly, and he is not a historian. This is just avid history watcher, viewer, and everything. So Napoleon may or may not be a Jacobin, which is funny, because my mistake is something that is actually clarifying said mistake is good, because I don't like the Jacobins and I like Napoleon. So there we go. Anyway, definitely be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye!